you know. So how would you say in the marketplace, what's the we kind of broached on it a little bit, but how have you found that balance, right? To be like, all right, I know that this is God's work, but I also have a ministry at home, and my first ministry begins at the home. Now that I am a married man, now that I have children. So how have you found that balance at home, from work to the marketplace?
Yeah, well, even coming off of what you just said too, to segue into that, is that I think one of the most humbling things that happened to me here, right? Because you can get lost in also your position and where you're at, right? And then to reach back out and have the humble, like, demeanor of understanding, you know, we're all important in this whole thing. I don't vocalize really my needs that much like that. I don't do that, you know. I guess in my own mind, I took it as people don't need to hear what my needs are, because then they're going to judge my position, they're going to judge the church, they're going to judge this or that or the other thing. And then there's this pride that comes to a man that says that I'm a provider, I shouldn't be lacking nothing, as they quote the scripture in a way, to their own justification of saying that, like, you don't need help. Like, everybody needs help, everybody needs a hand here and there. So one night, on a Thursday night, we were having rehearsal and stuff, and a sister gives me like $20 out of just nowhere. Just here's $20, you know, just use it for your family or whatever. And that stops me. Like, it was just like, huh? Like, you know, little did she know that, you know, I was in need. You know, I was in a very tight financial situation where I didn't have money to buy milk at home. I didn't have enough gas to come to rehearsal. Oh, wow. You know, I was in that position where there was a lot going on, and there was no way for me to really kind of provide. And it was very frustrating because I have so many skill sets that people want, but nobody's, you know, willing to pay for it. Yeah. And nobody's willing to honor those skill sets. They want everything as a handout, especially when you come from a church. You're like, oh, well, you know, help me out.
It's funny. So on that note, I recently heard this quote. Someone said, I think it went something like, everyone knows what the price of something is, but nobody knows the value.
That's very good. Yeah, that's actually very, very on point. Because a lot of the things that we do at a church are life-changing things. They change people's lives. They transform them for the better. Yeah. You having problems at home, at work. I could see the infomercial, like a Ghostbusters commercial. You know, do you see ghosts? Call us. You know, like, who are you going to call? Well, for us, it's like, you know, it was a funny Saturday Night Live thing I saw. Yeah. It was so funny. It was like Keenan, I think Thompson was the guy, and he was acting like Big Papi from the baseball. Yeah. And it was like, you know, and he said, I have something for you. Do you suffer from depression? Don't.
That's it.
That's it. Yo, I'll tell you what. It was funny. And it's meant to be funny. It's meant to be satire, whatever. But that made me really think. And I'm like, God, are you in a funny way trying to reach out and tell me that there are things that I'm just putting on myself that I don't really need to worry? Now, I'm not discounting. You know, depression is a very serious thing, and mental health and all that, and it's very serious, and we have to be on top of those signs and things that happen when it comes to that, you know. And but it was such a revelation in my mind, and somehow it opened up my mind to understand that there are those things though that we put on ourselves, and it's like, are we really stopping to think, you know, that there are things we just can't do and handle, you know? And when that sister gave me that $20 bill, and I put it in my pocket, and she's like, I'm first, of course, I'll do the whole, like, are you serious? Like, no. And she was like, no, you take it, because it just God put it on my heart, you know? And I'm like, wow. And I did the whole, like, I don't want to cry from, you know, okay, all right, thank you. And I left, and it was the end of the rehearsal and everything. And I left, and I literally, put like $10 of gas and $10 for milk and bread and eggs and whatever I can do. And it was like, wow. And it was just one of those moments where I was just, God, you really come through, keep me where I need to be, humbled at a place where I know that even though I have a position, I have this, I have that. Sometimes I used to spill, details like as if I got it going on because I'm this worship leader or something like that. The arrogance just started bleeding out, and God quickly just like, okay, I got you right here, I got you right here, I got you right here, and you're gonna learn to, that God is your provider, not what you can do.
Yep.
And that started spilling, and that's what made me have to stay longer at work and all this stuff, because I was fuming off of the understanding that I thought that was the end all.
Yeah.
And that affected my home. So going into the home is like, oh, my job is more important than yours now. Now you got those conversations with your wife. Oh, well, look at what you do is, and especially now she was praying for so many years. God, what am I supposed to be doing? I know I'm called to something.
Yeah.
Am I called to just be this medical assistant for the rest of my life, or this, retail person at a store for the rest of my life, or, hey, if that's what you do. But for her, she felt that there was a bigger purpose, a calling, something had to, and God gave her the opportunity to stay at home, where I was able to provide fully for the family at full time here at the church. And that opened up the doorway for her to do more for the women, for the children, stay at home moms. And but here I come around with my arrogance and saying, well, you couldn't do this while I was gone. I mean, you're home all day, type of thing. Oh yeah, that was very bold. Yeah. Yeah. God bless the heart of the man that still lives after that, and
man,
you're seeing a living testimony. Right. I bless God for my wife, because it's like, they say for behind every strong man there's a strong woman, they say, right? And yeah, that strong to not kill me in my sleep, like, because there's things that I just was so immature that it wasn't until I got married and I got kids that started the process of, it's like a funny thing, like if I wouldn't have probably never been married and had kids, I still would have been as ignorant as I probably was 20 30 years ago, right? And it's like, having that responsibility of, you don't speak for yourself anymore.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You're the voice of your family. Yep. You're that prophet. You're that, the I always forget the word of that. I'll get it later. But, you're just the important piece that God's going to use at home that will lead your family into the funnel of blessings. Yeah. And having a wife the way I have has opened my eyes to understand that God really, really loves me because I'm still alive on this side of earth and heaven and whatever. And I had to learn the hard way through home how to be a good minister and how to be a good leader, because it was like God used my family. There was this one time I was doing a mix for a group that I was recording for their live performances, and I took the computer home and I started mixing at home on the weekends, and my kid came up and said, hey daddy, can you play with me? And I'm sitting on the computer and I'm like, I can't right now, I'm busy, I'm working. Saturday afternoon, like, and he's like, I have to do this, I said. And he's like, no you don't. He did one of those like, don't, like from the Saturday Night Live thing. And it was like a revelation right there. I'm like, you're right. It just kind of came on like, you're right, I don't. Ain't nobody telling me to sit down in that computer and do that work that they're expecting to be done from Monday through Friday from 8 to 4.
Wow.
Not Saturdays and Sundays. It's like nobody's telling you to do this. Yeah. I put this on myself, and now my son just comes up with no you don't. And I'm like, you're right. Yeah. Now it's a simple thing, but God made it a point to say, this is the moment where you're going to have your aha moment of life. You're going to now level up as a newer man now, because your son's going to say, no, you don't. And now I'm like, oh my God. And it was, I think, the love, the relationship, the connection that got me to the point of hearing my 2-year-old son at that time telling me, no, you don't. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, oh, right. Yes, you're right. Turned off that computer, man. And I just started, whatever you want to do, let's do it, Egan. Let's go for it. And that made me start realizing that there are things I just put on myself. Yeah. And I don't have to. And for my home to be healthy, for my ministry to be healthy, my home has to be healthy. And I have to be able to be a bigger man to know when to just cut this off. The best and most valuable weapon I've ever had in my arsenal is the power of no. I've learned it. Just know how to say no to things. Just know how to say it. And it's the healthiest, most freeing thing. I've seen, what is it, Jim Carrey's Yes Man. It's the opposite. It's learn to say no. I think that was the main message in that movie was learn how to say no.
That's right.
Learn how to say no. Learn how to have your boundaries and yes and everything. It's like, at first it seems kind of cool. Like you're a yes man. You're like, there's a positive side to that. You know, like you're willing to do things. You're
the
a risk taker. Go-to guy. You're, the fun guy, whatever. But then, priority's going to hit home. I think in that movie, he fell in love or something, and priorities started flipping. And now he can't just say yes to everything because she is like, well, what are you doing? It's like, and that's a godly wife, man. It's very, very important to find. I tell any single guy out there, wait it out and let God find that person based upon even the needs, not just needs that you have for yourself, but the things that you're not right and you need help with. That could be the better half of you that will help you balance that out in your life. Amen. And then your kids too, because we don't think about our kids when we first meet somebody. We don't think about the kids. No. We think about how to get the kids. Didn't. We think about how to get the kids, the fun part. Oh, this is fun. But then the kids come, and it's like, what if we stop and say, I know this is hard because it's like we're trying to look good, we're trying to do this and that to get the girl, and then marriage comes. Oh, I got her now. This is like my trophy wife, whatever. And then you forget these kids are coming. Yeah. So what if you start to think before you get married, before you even start courting for a wife or looking for one, is what are those kids going to be like when you get married and you have the kids? What kind of father are you going to be? Yep. What kind of man are you going to be? And then most importantly after that, what kind of man of God are you going to be with a wife and kids? Yeah. They can't take a backseat. Absolutely. Yeah. I know we talk about big cars with big families. Oh, we need the back seats. We need the third row. Yeah. But that's not the same in God's kingdom. Everybody's on the front row in God's kingdom. He has a wide car. Yeah. And everybody's there in the front row. And he is not saying, don't make me turn this like chariot around or something. Right. No, it's like we're going full frontal, and it's like, okay, so what do we take from that? Like
absolutely.
It's crazy,
I like what you mentioned that who are we? You had mentioned something around like who does your wife see, right? Or who does the world see, right? Right. And I think it's important to kind of hone in on that, right? Because when we're interacting with the people that we love, we tend to be a lot more loose-lipped, a lot more abrasive than we would be with someone that we may not know as intimately, right? Yeah. And what we always need to have in the back of our mind is, how is this going to impact the way that... Because if I'm representing Jesus, if I'm sitting here saying that I'm representing Jesus, how is this going to impact the way that they see Jesus? Right? So if I am berating my wife and saying, bringing up her flaws, bringing up her things from the past, bringing up things that I don't like about her, comparing her to this or that. Right. If I look at my children and I start comparing them to other kids or, how is that going to impact the way that they see Jesus? Yeah. And how are they going to go to him when they have their issues, right? If this is the manifestation of him in our household. Right. Right? And then the same thing in the marketplace, right? Because if you're proclaiming the name of Jesus in the marketplace, it doesn't need to be Bible thumping, but if I'm saying that I'm drawing the line in certain things, right? I'm going to act ethically. I'm going to make sure that I treat everybody respectfully. How is this going to impact the way that Jesus is seen in the marketplace, right? Am I going to be a hypocrite? Right. Am I going to be the reason that brother or that sister says, nah, I don't want to go to church. I see how he is. Right. He says this when we're in this setting, but when we're alone or when it's just at the water cooler, right? That's a completely different person. Right? So we have to have that in the back of our head too, right? Not to carry the burden, so to speak, like that way, but to kind of, like we have to have that in the back of our minds in the way that we're interacting with people. And I'm a jokester. I love joking around, you know what I'm saying? But there are times where I just got to be like, no. Right. Like, absolutely not. This is where I draw the line.
That takes hard work.
Absolutely.
Because it's our personality. We brought up a very
bro.
festive,
Oh, my God.
culture. We're just culturally goofballs.
Yeah.
To make a good time happen. And actually, even culturally, we want to be the jokester because there's so much pain in the background.
Amen.
And we want to cover it up by, let's just laugh at this.
Yep. Including ourselves.
Big time.
Make the joke before someone else makes it for you, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that's another part of it that I think quietly, that's why we do that. I had to figure that out for myself early on. I sit in pastor's office and, and I'm like, being pointed on my chest, like, you need to grow up. You need to grow up. And I'm like, you're not my dad. To my pastor, God bless his heart. I was not a fun, if you were to look at it in the marketplace, I wasn't the model employee. I was always the guy who, always questioned everything. And now I learned how to do it better for the right reasons. Like, it's not about that you can't be, you can't have like a mindset to say, I'm going to question this because I want to make sure this is going in the right direction for everybody. But not just because back then it was just more, well, this ain't benefiting me in any way. So I'm not going to, let me turn their minds over to this. And it's not, and you can easily develop a double personality, just going into this whole, like, this is who I am here, and I go home and I'm a different person.
Yep.
They know who I really am at home because I get to like sit back in my couch and act like I am.
Yep. And
then when I go to the job, I'm like very polished. And people, it'll bite you in the butt because again, eventually your family is your number one ministry.
Yep.
It is, and it's gonna go in. Even if you work in a secular realm, your family is gonna be present in your personality and how you carry yourself and handle yourself at the marketplace. Because then it'll show. Like, let's say your kid, you had last Saturday maybe your kid dropped something and broke it and it was very valuable or whatever, and you had told them a million times, I told you not to do that and look what you did. All right, that's over with. Now a week or two later you get a situation where a client messed up something, and they did almost, it's like a flashback that your kid just dropped and you snap.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, you idiot, what did you, and you start, going off at work.
Yep. And
now you're at human resources and they're telling you you're going to have to take a week off or do something, no pay. What are you snapping at clients now? And they're like, that just bled over from just a situation you had with your 3 or 4 year old.
Absolutely.
It really comes out because your personality is being, your family is the very hub of who you are, So now that's why I mean, like, guys, think about this before you get into a relationship, because later on it's going to affect everything in life, and it's going to make you really like have to think about who you really are inside. And then I had to surrender myself to Christ. My personality had to be on the plate there and give it to God. And God, yes, I was the jokes. I was the blunt of everything, and I was the punchline to every situation. I was the guy who people went to when they wanted to have a good time in the weekend. Hey, Norby, what do you think we should be doing? Hey, let's do this and this and this and this and and then have all the and it's just like it really gets in the way when you think that's how life is just gonna stay, without thinking about what you now it's funny, now I'm dropping my kid off at youth group now. Okay, he's 12 now. I'm dropping my kid off at youth group now, so now I'm like thinking in a different level now. He's with other kids, with other adults that I'm not around, and I don't have the gas money to keep circling around the school to make sure he's okay. I have to drop him off, go home, and just kind of trust the Lord with my kid. And so it's like, like if I didn't condition my mind early on to say, God, my personality, my way of even surrendering the control over to a youth pastor and somebody else, God just knew, what I needed so that I can get to that. But if I didn't, bro, you don't know, I would have been, oh my gosh, I don't know where I would be today. Losing my family, probably not even have my family because of my dumb self, just the way I handle things. If it's not for God, that he will come in with his ways and not my own, that I would be able to understand, oh, this is how I'm supposed to handle this as a man of God, Let me give God the time to do this.
Yeah.
You know, and let me do what Jesus would do without the cliche and the bracelet. You know,
Yeah.
do it. Actually do it.
Yeah.
Like you said earlier, it's like sometimes we got all these principles and things, but we don't really live it out.
Yeah.
But what's the point of wearing the bracelet or the chain or the whatever, and you're not living it out? Like,
Absolutely.
actually do it. You know, make it powerful for you.
Absolutely.
You know.